College football coaches don't always tell the truth. And if you are a longtime watcher, listener of the podcast, you know that it bothers me. And I think sometimes media, whether it's podcast, radio, TV, newspapers, whatever the case may be, don't always create an environment for coaches to tell the truth. But there is a positive side. Players lie too. They don't ever tell the truth. And I would say that's okay, but I don't think it is. But there were two instances at SEC Media Days this week that caught my eye of people, I think, telling the truth. And it was refreshing and honest because it would be almost expected that they not tell the truth. There was a time earlier in my career where I covered a college football coach, and without fail, every week he would tell me the opposing team's quarterback, they've got the ability to beat us with their arm and their legs. And it got to be kind of like a running joke. Like I'm borderline mocking the guy because I'd be like, does their opposing quarterback present any challenges? Can he beat you with his arm and his legs? And they would say, the quarterback we got a lot of respect for. He can beat you with both his arms and his legs. And it got to one point, I was like, Coach, the opposing quarterback has negative 65 yards rushing on the season, and we're like 9 weeks into this thing. He does not have the ability to beat you with his arms and his legs. And he looked me dead in the eye, said he might not have shown it on film yet, but he's got the ability to beat you with both his arms and his legs. Great. Thank you. So coaches, even when presented with like basic facts of like, I know you're lying to me, find a way to still lie directly to your face. And at SEC Media Days, there was one instance where South Carolina head coach Shane Beamer did not do that. He was chatting with footballscoop.com, great publication. He was chatting with Zach Barnett, and Zach Barnett had asked him basically about the idea of hiring away a sitting head coach of an FBS program in Georgia State. Sean Elliott left Georgia State to become the tight ends coach and run game coordinator at South Carolina. Now, he did that in February while spring practice was going on. And so obviously that's not a great time for Georgia State, for your head coach to skedaddle while spring practice is starting to take a pay cut. Now, there's more to it than that. His family had stayed in Columbia, South Carolina, while he was the head coach at Georgia State, and he had spent, I think, 7 years at Georgia State leading that program, and it was about time to get back to his family. So there's more to it than that. But for a sitting head coach to take another job during spring practice was not ideal. And he was asked about that, or Shane Beamer, the head coach who hired the head coach away from a program, was asked about that. And I think he gave a really refreshing and honest answer. He was asked about it, and he said, I've always got to do what's best for my program. And then went on to say, my responsibility is to my players and coaches and fans and my bosses is to always do what's best for South Carolina football. I think that is a truly refreshing answer, because I think you could argue that the response is, it was a real unfortunate situation that the timing didn't play out in the best manner, and we truly regret that, blah, blah, blah. Shane Beamer doesn't give a rip, and he shouldn't have to give a rip, because he's right. His responsibility is to do what is best for South Carolina, and if that includes hiring an opposing coach into his staff while that team is already in spring practices and it just messes up their spring practice, I'm sorry. And I don't even know that you have to say I'm sorry. You just have to say, like, listen, I have to do what's best for me. And your head coach had to do what's best for him. And what that included is leaving your program during spring practices to come join mine. Now, it all sounds like at the time people were pissed, and I think justifiably so. I think anytime a coach is going to make that jump, and when you don't know that, like, hey, my family's living 3 hours away because I am following my dreams and hopes and career and all of those things, you don't have a full, clear picture. But at the time, people were pissed, and I think that's fair. Because like once you kind of start something, it feels weird and wrong to go back on that and jump ship to another job. But from Shane Beamer's perspective, I can't agree more with him that it is in his job responsibilities. What he has to do is what's best for his program and what's best for South Carolina football. And feelings be damned, perception be damned. The idea that you have to worry about, well, am I going to hurt another school's feelings? Whatever the case, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. It can't matter. You have to do what is best for your program. And what is best for your program is hiring some guy that's already started spring practice. Sorry, but I'm not sorry. But we also got refreshing honesty from a player at SEC Media Days, because Quinn Ewers, the Texas quarterback, could have easily entered the NFL draft in 2024. Now, he chose not to, and I think showed some wisdom in not. He was asked about why he didn't go, and he's correct that if you look at the statistics, college quarterbacks who get 25 or more starts are exponentially more likely to see success at the NFL level than those who don't. And so by coming back for his junior season, he's going to conceivably, barring injury, get past that 25 start limit. So he's going to have a lot of experience going into the 2025 NFL draft, where it's not unlikely that he could be the number one overall pick. But he was asked point blank about whether or not 2024 would be his last year playing college football. And he said, quote, "It definitely feels that way, but who knows what Jesus has in store for me. I love this game so much, but I try not to take my identity solely in football, but it would be cool if it was." Now, I think the standard boilerplate PR, don't ruffle any feathers answer to, is this your last year playing college football, is, we're going to see how the season plays out. Obviously, we have team goals that we want to accomplish first, blah, 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 blah. But it's refreshing to hear a college football player say, "Hey, is this the last go-round for you?" And he says, "Yeah, probably. If things go the right way, yeah, I'm not coming back in 2025. Because I think Quinn Ewers is telling the truth when he says, does this feel like it's your last year? Quote, "It definitely feels that way. It would be cool if it was." I appreciate that honesty, and I don't think there's a way to take that negatively, whether you're a Texas fan, whether you're any sort of college football fan. I think you want Quinn Ewers to have the confidence to say, yes, I want this to be my last season because I want to have played so well that I would be making a foolish decision to come back to play college football in 2025. It would be cool if it was my last season, means that your team is probably accomplishing the goals that you want it to set out to do. So for Quinn Ewers, and I'm here to tell you that there's somebody, whether it's a sports information director, whether it's the coach, whether it's Steve Sarkisian, the offense coordinator, whoever, position coach, somebody was like, "Oh, God, no." Because the standard boilerplate answer is I'm not focused on that right now. We're focused on team goals, blah, 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 blah. The standard answer isn't, "Yeah, this is probably it. So I'm going to soak it up. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to play the best that I can." But would it be cool if this was my last year? Yeah. It's refreshing honesty. And I hope, again, if you're a long-time listener or watcher of the podcast, you know that I strongly and firmly believe in telling the truth, saying what you mean, meaning what you say. If you think it, say it. And this week at SEC Media Days, Shane Beamer and Quinn Ewers get gold trophies in an edible arrangement from me or something, because they told the truth. And I hope we ever get to a point where coaches and players telling the truth isn't something that deserves to be celebrated or get a pat on the back or have a podcast dedicated to the fact that you said what you really truly thought. I hope we can get to that point, but I don't hold out a lot of hope that we'll get there. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing. So if you're watching on the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, I should say, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we're pumping out. If you're listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. Goes a long way in helping out the channel. See you tomorrow for another episode here of the Daily Huddle.